Hi there. Like my homemade welding rotator? I sure do. Been thinking about it for a long time. Now, today's video I'm going to show you how I made it. I can't show you all the little details because frankly, I shot everything over like 5 days and my mind just isn't up to editing that much. I've tried 4 times, I can't even get it going. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to disassemble it so you can see what's in it. Now, I've got a lot of parts. Now, this machine started off as a Liftmaster. It's now the Spindmaster 2000. Liftmaster doesn't endorse this, but it's the one machine that's really easy to make this into. There's other ones like Viking and Door King has something, but this one, the simplest and easiest, and this is what I replace most operators like this with. Like I say, it's a very good brand. This one came off an apartment complex. It lasted 7 years out there before the motherboard went. And instead of replacing $1,000 motherboard, we just put new openers in, heavier duty ones. But this is a good one. As you notice, it can turn around. Well, it can even go backwards. This is pretty cool, huh? It can go faster. So if you're a really good welder, you can turn it up. Or if you're like me, it can go very slow. Now, there are no electrics in this box that are from the original Liftmaster. It's got all new transformers. The only thing that's left is the DC motor. And that's important. The DC motor is what you need most of all. So you can vary it with one of these $30 control panels. Got a fly running around, getting a free ride. We'll turn it off and go unplug it. Guess we should start with the top. This used to be a 45 pound dumbbell weight. My friend Don suggested this. Now you can use other sizes. This is just a nice size. In fact, this is a great replacement for a messed up drill table. You got to find the right kind. Now this one is totally flat on one side. My friend Don came over and he helped me use the big lathe to turn this flat and bore it. Now this post is a 2.5 inch exactly post sticking up out of here. And this dumbbell is just the perfect size. See if I can get it off. See the back? On this one, all the ribs and everything were on the back, which left the front being able to face it off. We bored this through. Feel like I'm back in rehab. Well, in fact, I am back in rehab. Can't walk yet. I can walk baby steps, but I don't have any balance. Fall over. Oh, it's going to fall over there, so let's just tilt it up. There we go. I think it still weighs at least 44 pounds. Pardon the mess. Not much I can do about it yet. Now, if you notice down there, that's a piece of brass that I turned to fit the grounding cable. So you just hook up your grounds, you clamp onto it, and it runs up to just below this collar. I don't run any of the electrics through the bearings. It kind of messes them up. In fact, there's a leftover piece of wire. In fact, there's all of the parts that I had to remove to make this work. There was a chain right there that goes up to the timing gear that tells the machine where it is and when to stop. This is a box they had in there for the batteries to sit on. There's a Tordol transformer, and over there is the control panel for the on and off and electrics going to it. One of my viewers wants those two pieces, and they weigh right at 8 pounds. I got to figure out how much shipping would be. And then there's the electric connection box that came on it. There's some other odds and ends, but nothing major. Now, to get this thing apart, there's 5 bolts. Unfortunately, in my shape, it's hard to go get those. Like my new workbench, I already had one of them from years ago that I turned into my computer station because it's air conditioned in here. This one we just bought, and a friend helped me put it together. This thing was, I'm able to raise it to my work level by this clamp. Unlike all my other work tables, which are, really high, I can't work on that. So I got something I could. Back to this. There's 2 bolts down at the bottom on each side. 1/2-inch wrench takes them off. These aren't the factory bolts. I had the factory bolts in my work trailer, which unfortunately I'll never be able to work anymore doing what I was doing. So my son took over the business, and frankly I gave him everything he needed. I put these casters on, and they work pretty good, except when their cord's getting in the way. And I'm taking these off in an order. The sides first, and the last bolt will be on the front. And I'm doing that because with the bolts out, this back shell will stay on the machine, but the front shell, where you can get into the electronics, isn't. Feel like I'm back in rehab again. Well, I am back in rehab. I've never really lost or been out of rehab. This makes, okay, I got all those out. Now this last one holds the shell on the front. When I first got released out of intensive care, they sent me to a rehab hospital. I couldn't move my legs, my arms, and I couldn't even sit up. I was so weak. I spent 33 days in the rehab hospital, and they got me to where I could walk with a walker the very last day. So this just comes off. It's how you get into them in the field. Then I had 2 months of in-house rehab, in-home rehab. Then back to the rehab hospital for 13 more days. I just finished the initial outpatient rehab, and they've got me scheduled for 8 more weeks now. It does me good. This doesn't belong in this machine until it became a Spindmaster 2000. This is a 110 to 24 volt converter. It comes out and goes through here where I've installed a fuse, and I'm using the original DC motor. Now, on the way this was designed when it was first, the fuse for that motor was on the control board. I've gotten rid of the control board, and so I need to protect that motor. So here's its fuse. Now here is an optional inspection plate. The reason why I say it's optional is you don't really need it unless you screw up like I did and put your control over here. Unfortunately, by doing that, you just lift this off. More wires in there. I tried to leave enough slack where I could take this off without messing around with it. And you can. Very limited. Now over here, still connected, is one of these speed control boxes. I dropped this one and broke one of the ears off. It's got input and output. It's got forward, reverse, and off. And then this is your speed control. Now you can turn it off, the power to the motor, by going to off here. But you don't turn off the power transformer by doing that. You need to unplug it. Now, this is another power converter. Gives you a little bit of idea what it looks like. It's got the 2 outputs up here. This is all factory. Now this is a 12 volt, 800 watt output. That one is a 24 volt, 800 watt output. I needed the 24 volts because that's a 24 volt motor down there. This is basically where it goes. And I didn't see any fuses on this thing. But this was like $69 on Amazon. Now, let's start at the top. Now this is the way that grounding lug works down there. It comes up, goes up here and under a stud. Now I put, this is a piece of 3/4 inch cutting board material. And the whole idea was to isolate the welding from the machine itself. Mainly because if you run electricity through bearings, you mess them up. Doing it this way, there's no bearing to mess up. Now, as I was doing this, I put on this spring from the hardware store. And just a nut and everything. I got to thinking that maybe that spring was not going to be enough current handling capability. So I added a little pigtail between the two. Now, if I wanted to, I could probably put this up here, but I think this will work. If not, I can always add another one. I've got a pretty heavy cable there. And then it goes into a 1/2 inch copper braided. This came off of Amazon. It's got the ends already crimped on. I tried to go with a 1 inch, or 3/4 inch, excuse me, but it was too much. I ran out of height. Now this is the original sprocket that the chain went on and came over here to the position finder. I didn't need that. And I took, you know, I was really just wanting, if this would have been connected up here, I'd have been okay, but it doesn't. There's a plastic bushing inside. I made this on the lathe. If you want to go watch the video, I'll show you how. This is one piece, and I needed this ledge right here to fit into that hole and hold up the machine. Well, when I was tearing this apart, I'll put that part in here now. It was very frustrating. What I'm awkwardly trying to do is to drill, well, I've already drilled them, to tap these two holes right here. And there. I'll put some WD-40 in it because my wife can't stand the other stuff I like. And I could sit here and do this, but I'm not going to. Ever since I found these kind of drills 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, let's get it straight. See what I mean? Two 15/16 holes, really nice to make it work. When you thread through in there, sometimes you can burr the inside. And I did such a damn fine job of machining this that that little bit matters. So what I'm going to have to do is get it out of there. There we go. Now the reason I needed to make this was twofold. There's something round that's going to fit on top of this, and this is a spacer to make it come to the right height. The second reason is I had to modify this quite a bit from what the manufacturer originally intended. This used to be on here like that. And it's wedged underneath this shaft and this plate. So I ended up having to cut it out and do some rotor rooting basically on it. Well, that left me with a problem. I now have a gap that's got plastic in it that's real rough. And I want to take and put a copper braided wire around it like this. And I figured if I tried doing it like this, it'd eat it up in 2 days. So I decided to make this a little bit into a slip ring for it, where it goes on here. And now it's got a nice thing. This is going to be Allen screwed to that shaft. Anyway, that's what the thing is for. This works really well. Now put a little dielectric grease on this, and so the current comes over and goes into this and then on up into the plate. It works pretty well. You need a little grease on this thing so it smooths out the traction. Give you a little It's working. See if I can show you. Let's move that out of the way. Okay, this is a 24-volt motor that's original. It goes up into this transmission, which then goes to that pulley and up this chain into this transmission. And they're very slow by nature because it can't move too fast. But then when I put the rheostat on it, I can make it go even slower. So that's what I've done. These have oil in them. You could very easily take and put a hinge down there on that back plate and make this a tiltable model. But if you do, there are two places. That's one of them. There's another one down here somewhere. Yeah, back in there. These are air vents. They have a little hole in them. See that little hole? That will allow air to get into this. If you tilt this motor, oil could leak out of that cap. So what I would suggest you do is put a threaded nipple into that hole and run you an air line somewhere else so that when you tilt it over like this, it still has air, but it won't leak out. Now this speed control is inset and just makes it pretty easy to handle from there. If you look in there real careful, or turn yourself on your head here, you can see where my optional, you're wheeling all about, you can see where my optional hole came in. I removed the battery tray from this area right here so I'd have enough room, but I didn't think to take into account this. I thought I got it far enough down, but my box wouldn't slide in all the way. So don't do as I do as I tell you to, and put it down lower than this. Other than that, this thing was a very simple build. Now coming up in the next video, we're going to do something with that 3-jaw chuck.